Next, we'll hear from CEOs of science-based companies that are doing it right now. Helene Rutledge is co-founder of UPGRAID, an innovative new supplements company offering natural alternatives for health conditions that are most often treated with chemicals today. Let's get to their stories, starting with Helene.
Great. So thank you for that introduction. And thank you to NBJ for giving me the opportunity to talk about the consumer revolution and how UPGRAID is a direct-to-consumer brand leading with science. Next slide, please. First, I'll tell you a little about me. I've loved science since my childhood and pursued chemical engineering as an undergrad. I went on to get my executive MBA at NYU Stern School, where I learned to apply my engineering problem-solving mindset to business challenges. My career spans multiple industries and regulatory categories, ranging from food to pharma and global Fortune 500 companies to startups, including commercializing products invented by a Harvard PhD. I've led product development teams with a specialty in innovation. I headed global open innovation at GlaxoSmithKline, collaborating with universities, including MIT Media Lab. And most recently, I was Chief Innovation Officer at New Avon. I use these diverse experience to make connections and improve practices, especially increasing speed to market of innovative products and business models. All of these elements culminate in my belief that science can be used to improve people's lives. So about a year ago, Justin Kamine and I co-founded UPGRAID. As a company, we set out to offer preventative health solutions through science and nature so people could upgrade their personal health journey. Science has been at our company's core since our inception. Next slide, please. However, all too often, science isn't being communicated clearly enough to consumers. Although science is usually thought of as an objective discipline, some companies take liberties in their interpretations and either willfully or unintentionally confuse consumers. Unfortunately, many people judge the entire supplement industry based on high-profile news stories about bad actors, or independent testing labs getting low-potency results, or even worse, finding adulterated products. In this environment, real science in supplements is crucial to support the legitimacy of the category for consumer understandable positive health outcomes. Consumers are faced with a complex, rapidly changing world, all while the education gap in STEM subjects is expanding between the US and other developed countries. So in these times, leading with a message of scientific credibility takes more skill to break through the noise and earn the trust of your consumers. Today, I'll share some of the new tools we're employing at UPGRAID and the classic tools of brand marketing that we still apply, albeit translated to a digital format. Next slide, please. Building a legitimate brand based on science starts with what's inside the product. I'm sure most people in this audience are well aware of these requirements, but it's worth being explicit in defining the elements of good product development. So number one, safety comes first. The first hurdle for any formulation is assessing safety and toxicology, confirming the regulatory approval status of each ingredient, and considering the levels based on maximum daily consumption. At UPGRAID, we also prioritize eliminating the most prevalent allergens and consider any other potential risk factors, so we choose the safest ingredients for a given functionality. Of course, we monitor for any potential adverse events and use CAPA processes for corrective and preventative actions. Second, the formulation must be designed to work. For supplements, as Greg mentions, the clinical data on the active ingredients in the formulation can be used to support claims for finished products, but they have to be formulated with the same potency and use the same regimen that was clinically studied. Some supplement products include ingredients below this efficacious dose just so it can appear on the label, but these products won't provide consumers with consistent results. Formulation expertise also needs to be used to address ingredients with poor bioavailability. At UPGRAID, our claims are supported by a clinical dossier, including a pharmacokinetic study on our turmeric. Understanding the mechanisms of action in the body are not required for supplements, but the thought process in selecting ingredients creates the opportunity to find complementary action and test for synergistic combinations in your proprietary formulations. Third, the formulation must be consistent. I'm a firm believer in using quality assurance methods to design quality into your product. OTC regulations require setting specifications based on 3 lots of each active ingredient. And while this isn't required for supplements, The best practice is to understand the sources of variability and have a justification for your spec range. Designing quality in reduces out-of-spec product that leads to costly rework or disposal down the line. Supplements also aren't specifically required to have an expiration date, but if any date is used on the package, it must be supported by shelf life studies. At UPGRAID, we believe quality by design is good business, including accelerated stability studies on our formulas and packaging to ensure our products deliver consistent quality. Next slide, please. The consumer dilemma is how to reach consumers in a way that addresses their unmet needs. Because of our category, there's a gap between what consumers want and what the market offers. Increasingly, people need guidance to select products that are right for them. The value proposition is different depending on each person's specific needs. As Greg mentioned, the complex regulatory differences between foods, supplements, and OTC and RX drugs can be difficult for consumers to navigate if they don't understand the different standards that apply to each category. Even the DSHEA disclaimer often causes more confusion with consumers rather than helping explain the complexities of the supplement category. A misconception that I've run into is that some consumers think that the FDA does not regulate supplements at all because there's no pre-market approval. But the reality is that responsible manufacturers follow the regulations, maintain the proper documentation, and undergo regular audits and inspections. Also, since complete FDA and FTC enforcement of claims language is not possible, consumers are faced with inconsistent language around benefits and claims, which makes it difficult to know what to believe and trust what to buy. And the increase of class action lawsuits over misleading advertising adds to the overall distrust of supplements. On the other extreme, it's important that pro-supplement consumers understand that drugs have their place in the continuum of treatments. And for serious conditions and diseases, the risk-benefit decision lens is different. Consumers that overreact to low percentage risk side effects as a reason to substitute natural remedies for needed drugs could make poor trade-offs leading to serious, even fatal outcomes. The role of marketing a holistic, consumer-centric approach is to arm the consumer with information to make their own decisions consistent with their personal risk-benefit analysis. Next slide, please. So what tools can marketers use to break through the clutter? The ideal scenario is to find the optimal design target that solves for a macro trend in your specific customer segment using both practical and emotional insights to solve for their needs in a unique way, and using science to support those reasons to believe. For an ingested product, as we discussed, building trust starts with being trustworthy. From there, other useful tools come from the psychology of brand marketing, getting appropriate third-party validation, and creating analogies and graphics to make science more approachable. Marketing sometimes gets a bad reputation for using psychology in the wrong way to seemingly manipulate the unwitting consumer to purchase or do something not in their best interest. Good brand marketing starts with finding deep consumer insights based on emotion to fill an unmet need. This alignment builds affinity and a sustainable connection with the brand. Direct-to-consumer brands have the opportunity to develop these relationships digitally through online segmentation and laser targeting messaging to different cohorts. Social media and communities of interest allow for a rich two-way conversation, which can elevate consumer understanding of science while mining additional insights to continuously refine current offerings and identify new areas for product development and innovation. Next, choosing your source of third-party validation must be relevant to your consumer set to have value. For example, we know our customers resonate with the organic certification as a proxy for natural. We also learned that our athlete population chooses our product for daily inflammation and sports recovery benefits over CBD products because of our NSF Safe for Sport certification. We've pursued these two certifications strategically because they speak to two of our primary cohorts. Finally, marketers must break down complex scientific concepts to make them understandable. Analogies, demonstrations, and great visuals have to be in the arsenal in a variety of formats, from long-form educational pieces to shorter social media-friendly content designed to stimulate interest and discussion. Next slide, please. So for the future, the new paradigm of consumer-centric healthcare is built around trust and personalization. Direct-to-consumer brands can curate what consumers need in a complex world and elevate their ability to manage their own health through prevention with the right facts at the right time. The new tools use digital data gathering to really know consumers as individuals, allowing for customization, including content and preferences. Of course, the goal is to increase consumer loyalty and lifetime value, but there is also the opportunity to collect structured data and measure outcomes and secondary benefits in a statistically robust way. While the gold standard is still traditional placebo-controlled clinical trials, we believe access to digital data offers the potential to correlate secondary outcomes to primary measured endpoints at some point in the near future. This will unlock a host of opportunities to offer more personalized recommendations and healthcare alternatives. Disruptive innovation often doesn't happen until there's a burning need for change. 10 years ago at MIT Media Lab, I led a project where GSK prototyped a connected health solution leveraging big data analytics, but it was too soon for both regulatory acceptance and consumer adoption. With the need to approve telemedicine during the pandemic and consumers trusting digital security to opt in and share data, we're at the beginning of a new wave of digitally connected, personalized, consumer-centric care. My early chemical engineering training has always driven me to find better solutions, and my work in innovation has made me impatient for the promise of the future. I believe we're at an inflection point, and healthcare, including the nutrition industry, needs a new paradigm of smart science. At UPGRAID, we're excited to bring classic best practices and new approaches to clinical data to the nutrition industry as part of that change. Next slide. So with that, I'd like to thank you all for listening, and I want to thank NBJ again for this opportunity.